How did the Manchester Derby start? Which one is the biggest, and what's the most common result? These are just a few of the questions we'll answer in today's video. So stick around to find out more about the history and statistics of this great rivalry. Welcome to my channel. We've done videos on El Clasico and other great rivalries, but now it's time to look at arguably the greatest rivalry in world football, the Manchester Derby. The rivalry between these two teams is so intense that even the build-up to the game creates huge tension in the city of Manchester. Not only are they fierce rivals, but they also share the same city, meaning that there's nowhere to hide. The history between these two clubs goes all the way back to 1881, when the two clubs were formed just 3 miles apart from each other. They started off as two completely different clubs with no connection to each other whatsoever. However, over the years, their paths would eventually cross, and this would lead to one of the greatest rivalries in world football. Number 15. When was the first ever match played? The first ever meeting between these two sides took place on February 1881. It was a friendly match as the two sides were getting used to playing competitive football. The match finished with an incredible 3-3 draw, which set the stage for many more encounters between these two sides over the years. Number 14. Where was the first competitive match played? After that friendly encounter, it wasn't long before the two sides met again. This time it was a competitive match in the second division of the Football Alliance. This was an important match as both teams wanted to prove who was the dominant force in Manchester. In the end, it was City who came out on top in a 1-0 victory. This one showed that they were the better team, and it gave them the confidence to go on and win the league. Number 13. How often do they play each other? Since the two teams are in the same city, they often play each other twice a season. Once at the Etihad Stadium and once at Old Trafford. This means that the players have to be prepared for a big game every single time they step onto the pitch. The intensity of the games is always high, and there's always something riding on the games, whether it's a trophy or a place in Europe. Number 12. Which team has won the most games? Out of all the encounters between these two sides, United have come out on top more often than City. They've won 69 matches compared to City's 57 wins. This means that United have a slight advantage over their local rivals. However, City have been catching up in recent years and they're now only 1 win behind United. Number 11. What's the most common result? Even though United have won more games than City, the most common result in the Manchester Derby is a draw. There have been 28 draws between these two sides, which shows how evenly matched they are. The games are always close and there's not much between the two teams. This makes the games so exciting because you never know what's going to happen. Number 10. What's the biggest win for City? Number 9. What's the biggest win for United? United's biggest win in the Manchester Derby came in 1994 when they beat their local rivals 5-0. The game was played at Old Trafford and it was a masterclass from the Red Devils. They tore City apart and scored 5 goals past their defense. The game was a mismatch and it was one of the best performances in the club's history. No, 8. Who is the top scorer? When it comes to the Manchester Derby, there's only one name that matters: Wayne Rooney. He's the top scorer in the history of the Derby with 25 goals. This is an incredible record and it shows how important he was to United over the years. He was a prolific goal scorer against City, and he always seemed to rise to the occasion. Number 7. Is there any bad blood between the managers? The current managers of both teams have a long history with each other. Pep Guardiola was in charge of Barcelona when Jose Mourinho was in charge of Real Madrid. This meant that they were in the same league, and they often had to face each other. The rivalry between the two managers was intense and it spilled over onto the pitch. They constantly argued with each other and there was a lot of bad blood between them. This rivalry continued when Guardiola moved to Bayern Munich and Mourinho moved to Chelsea. The two managers faced each other again in the Champions League and the bad blood continued. It'll be interesting to see if the rivalry between the two managers continues when they face each other in the Manchester Derby. No, 6. Do the stats favor one team? As we mentioned earlier, United have won more games than City, but City have been catching up in recent years. In fact, City have only lost one of their last 8 derbies. This is a great record and it shows that they're the team in form right now. If this form continues, then they could overtake United in terms of the number of wins. Number 5. What's the attendance record? The Manchester Derby is one of the most anticipated games of the season, and it has always sold out. The record attendance for a Derby game is 80 for 2011, which was set in 1934. This was a FA Cup tie, and it was one of the most memorable games in the history of the fixture. The atmosphere was electric and it was a great day for football. Number 4. Has anyone won the treble over the other? One of the greatest achievements in football is winning the treble, which is when a team wins the league, the cup and the Champions League in the same season. Both teams have achieved this feat, but only one team has managed to achieve it against their rivals. That team is Manchester United. In 1999, they won the Premier League, the FA Cup and the Champions League. This was an incredible achievement and it showed the strength of the squad that they had at the time. Number 3. What's the most controversial moment? There have been many controversial moments in the history of the Manchester Derby, but one of the most controversial moments came in 2009. This was a match that was being televised live and it was goalless at full time. In the 93rd minute, City were awarded a penalty after a handball by Rio Ferdinand. Carlos Tevez stepped up to take the penalty, but his shot was saved by Edwin van der Sar. This was a controversial decision as replays showed that Ferdinand had not deliberately handled the ball. However, the decision stood and the game ended in a 0-0 draw. No, 2. When was the last time one team went unbeaten? There have been many occasions when one team has gone unbeaten against their rivals. However, the last time this happened was in the 2010-11 season. City went the whole season unbeaten against United, winning 4 and drawing 2. This was a great achievement and it showed the strength of the team that City had at the time. No. 1. When will the next one be played? Now, you know all about the history and statistics of the Manchester Derby. It's time to find out when the next one will be played. Unfortunately, we don't know the exact date of the next derby, but we do know that it lines be played in September 2025. This is the perfect time to start your weekend early. And there you have it, 15 facts about the biggest rivalry in football. Now it's time to put your knowledge to the test. Which team do you think will win the next derby? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want to learn more about football, then stay tuned for more videos like this one. Thanks for watching and we'll see you next time.